she's not like most girls. She's also not like most WWE superstars. Nia Jax, the reigning queen of the ring, is a reckoning, a force of nature that blitzes right through her competition. A cousin of The Rock, Nia Jax arrived in NXT almost 10 years ago with astronomical expectations. Undaunted, Nia Jax would dominate early opponents, finding herself competing for the NXT Women's Championship mere months after her debut. It did not take long for those running Raw and SmackDown to take notice.
Well, our next pick, Nia Jax!
And Nia Jax would join the Raw roster as part of the 2016 Draft Lottery. And since joining the main roster, absolutely no one has been safe from Nia Jax. She is a two-time women's champion. She is a two-time women's tag team champion. She competed in the men's Royal Rumble match in 2019, even getting an elimination while in the ring.
Nia Jax looking to eliminate, she does!
She's battled standouts like Charlotte, Bayley, and Becky Lynch. And all the while, she has left undeniable destruction in her wake. In the ring, she applies many of the same tactics that once benefited Yokozuna, even using her own version of the Banzai Drop, known as the Annihilator. And just like its namesake, if it connects, your night is over. And Nia Jax remains driven for even more success, jumping at any opportunity to prove her dominance. This last year, that included entering into the 2024 Queen of the Ring tournament after earning victories over Naomi, Jade Cargill, and Bianca Belair. Nia Jax would fight her way into the finals, taking on former NXT Women's Champion Lyra Valkyria. Valkyria built a lot of momentum, defeating Dakota Kai, Zoe Stark, and Io Sky to punch her ticket into the final at the Queen and King of the Ring. With an obvious game plan, Lyra would look to stick and move, avoiding the colossal attacks of her opponent. Unfortunately, as often happens when competing against Nia Jax, Lyra made one miscalculation, and that error in judgment provided Nia Jax with the opening she needed to annihilate her competition. This is your opportunity to crown the first queen in Bloodline history. Make Lyra suffer. Make her regret ever entering your ring. Showcase the otherworldly power that forces an entire roster to cower in your presence. Because when you're an irresistible force like Nia Jax, resistance is futile.
Once again, Paul Heyman, ladies and gentlemen, for praising Nia Jax. Understandably so. But no. Nia Jax is one of those wrestlers, as everything Heyman said. There's a couple instances fans aren't necessarily the biggest fan of her, but, you know, she's, people like to boo her, so yeah, they're going to keep her around, realistically. But no. Yeah, Nia Jax is one of those I don't know a ton about. The biggest thing I do know is she's actually one of the Performance Center standouts. She was trained by the Performance Center, by WWE's Performance Center. So that's kind of a cool thing she's kind of got going for her, as she's got, you know, the family legacy and the bloodline, in addition to being a WWE Performance Center alum. This girl, on the other hand, while yes, Lyra Valkyria is a bit of a Performance Center standout, she was trained by a Fight Factory in Ireland, where she is from. So yeah, she was trained by the Fight Factory Pro Wrestling, where that's where they just trained them and shipped you off into their like school program if you were good enough. And from there, she built her credibility on the European independents, got picked up in NXT UK prior to it shut down due to COVID, and then got shipped off over here. That sounds odd to say, but basically it's what happened. But no, she's actually... the funny thing is she won the NXT Women's Championship while Nia Jax did not. Because Jax is, I want to say, her first and only time she competed for the NXT Women's Championship. If not, I'm sure CageMatch.net's going to have my back on this, and I'll fix it. She only competed at NXT TakeOver London, which she competed for the NXT Women's title at TakeOver London, where... Okay.
Lyra trying to rely on her technique to bring down the irresistible force, but having no luck at the moment. I'm not sure this is going to work either. Jack's just entirely too strong. But whoa, that was interesting. Oh, nice athleticism by Valkyria. Even Jax might be a little impressed. I wouldn't go that far, Saxton. Here comes Nia, just imposing her will on Lyra Valkyria. Again, Lyra showing how resourceful she is, applying the sleeper to Nia Jax. Lyra tried to hold on. And now Nia Jax in control, and she's going to look to put Lyra away. Nobody home, shut outside the ring, and Valkyria's got a chance. Huge window of opportunity. Right now for Lyra Valkyria to strike. Lyra may actually pull this off. Lyra may become queen.
Well, back to what I was saying. She took on Bayley at TakeOver London, which was the first NXT TakeOver, and really I think first WWE pay-per-view outside the U.S. Well, outside of North America, because I know they'd had a couple in Canada for a long while. But the success of the show over there is kind of, I think, what started the digging in for the NXT UK. And, well, that didn't... I mean, it went over fairly well, I would say. It wasn't necessarily the worst. It was definitely one, if you followed British wrestling, you probably would have enjoyed it. NXT UK, at least. I didn't. I had watched, like, I'd watched a couple NXT UK shows, you know, nights you can't sleep, you just put something on for noise. So... that's when I was watching NXT UK, which is where I saw Lyra for the first time. Well, not Lyra. Her name was like Lyra Valkyria. Actually, she's one of the victims of the name changes, where they started changing everyone's names. Because I remember paying attention to NXT US, and I'd seen internet rumors that WWE had signed what's her name? Taya Valkyrie, that's her name. It's like they'd signed Taya Valkyrie, and I'm like, and the whole time they'd signed her, I'm like, what are they going to give her a name? Because I don't think they're going to use her independent name, Taya Valkyrie, considering they have someone with the last name Valkyrie in NXT UK. And then that's when we ended up with Frankie Monet, which... I was a fan of it, but I was also like a fan of her prior to being Frankie Monet. So it's kind of like, well, you're still you. You're the same character, it's just a different name, which I'm totally okay with that. So, like, to me it was just a name. But then she moves over here and becomes Lyra Valkyria, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. It's like, was that... And I honestly thought that was her name the whole time, just because it'd been so long since I'd paid any attention to NXT UK. But I digress. But yeah, and Nia Jax, she's a multi-time tag champ in women's tag champ in WWE. Like Heyman said, she recorded an elimination in the men's Royal Rumble, which she eliminated, oddly enough, Mustafa Ali, who is currently in TNA. But
Valkyria crushed in the corner by Jax. Squashing Lyra in the corner. The beginning of the end may be near. And Nia now, with Lyra on her back, gonna climb up.
yeah, you know what? This is just an annihilator, pretty much, and ends the match. So I'll probably call it once this scene ends. But just to finish it up, she basically competed in both the men's and women's rumbles, and the same night recorded eliminations in both. And she's the first and only female wrestler to do it. Of course, they had a couple of female wrestlers in the men's rumbles. You had Chyna was the first to do it in the 90s. And that's not counting the DX Nation of Domination Rumble. That was like a legitimate rumble. She entered like number 30, I want to say. And then Beth Phoenix entered the men's rumble in like 2010. And yeah. Unfortunately, none of them won. But then in 2018, we got the first ever women's Royal Rumble. So take what you can get, I guess. But that's going to do it for this. Next time, we'll be back in Sonic Colors, continuing the Starlight Carnival. See y'all then. And next week, The Rock and Rikishi. Yeah.